guys, we are ready for Chapter 5. Within moments, the team saw heads bobbing up over the rise. 3, 6, then 9, 15 heads tall. Daisy Ramirez led the way. Hitting two sticks together, her son, Refugio, a 10th grader, banged the snare drum, clipped to his belt. Jimbo Jakes, the apple cider maker, beat the stretched skin of a tom-tom with two soft mallets. Boom lay, boom lay, boom lay, boom lay. Behind the drummers came the only lawyer in town, Grayson, Grey Dog, LaRue, who ran a part-time law practice in back of his wife's hair salon, but mostly hung out on the bench around the plaza. He played a piccolo, blowing out a shrill, bird-like sound. With a gray goatee and a full head of wavy hair bobbing up and down, he looked like a jazz man who had sipped a few too many espressos. Behind Grey Dog marched a ragtag bunch, click-clacking, broken stick broomsticks and jangling tambourines. Frankie's mom carried a red cooler, and Maggie LaRue, Grey Dog's wife, carried a big stack of tortillas wrapped in paper. Others held shopping bags that were filled with whatever. Off to the side, pacing back and forth, was Hollis B., the town's poet savant, who lived on two wooden planks in a black oak tree just outside of the town. Speaking into his cell phone loudly and rapidly, Hollis B. looked like a roving sideline reporter darting around giving reports of the band's play-by-play action in an invisible audience. The cell phone wasn't actually real. You see, Hollis B. had a habit of walking through town, waving his arms, holding a lively conversation with imaginary people. In the past, he'd scared everybody, from the little kids at the preschool to the group of bird lady feeders who sat around the park. So one day, Sheriff Decker gave him an old broken cell phone. That way he could hold up the phone and walk around town talking like a crazy person, and nobody would think he was more than just an annoying real estate agent. Tom loved listening to him, and he wished he could hear all of his news report over the clash and clang of the band. As the group reached the ballpark fence near the dugout, Daisy Ramirez held both hands high. Halt! In 2 steps, or in some cases 3, the band and the music came to a stop. She turned to the campers and called out, "Wildcats, on behalf of the citizens of Dillontown, we salute you. Not only are you our baseball team, but you represent the history and spirit of this town. And now, you are the town's only hope to retain its heritage." That last remark caused the musicians to break into a mad electric frenzy of 2 tax clicks and booms. When they stopped, Daisy continued, "As your loyal fans, we are here to offer our support in order to help you prevail in the big game, the most crucial game of our lives." "Ah, geez," said Frankie. "This is embarrassing." Mr. Gallagher stood speechless. Mrs. Gallagher stepped forward. "Goodness," she said. "This is, well, very nice. We thank you. We really don't know quite what to say," she said as she glanced at her husband. "You don't have to say anything," said Maggie, who was a great supporter of the town. She owned the In-Your-Face beauty salon, where there was a sign in the window that said, "We'll chop your mop till you say stop." Today, her short brown hair was frosted blue and sprinkled with glitter. "You've got more to do than talk to us. We're just here to cheer you on. So please, continue while we set up the barbecue grills. Lay out the carne asada, some rice and beans." She tapped the red cooler. "And Umberto's fresh salsa. We want to make sure this team is encouraged, well-nourished, and plays with a flourish." Shrieks, whistles, and boom, boom, booms filled the air again. This time, all of the players joined in. "Carne asada? Now you're talking my lingo," said Frankie. "Yo," said Will. "If we're gonna die, why not party hardy and eat happy and die happy?" Maria curled her tongue and whistled 5 times. While a few men helped Umberto unload the spilled-out drum grills from the back of the truck, practice resumed and the soft-skin balls began exploding against the backstop with increasing force, particularly as the team worked its way down to the lightest stack of bats. But after about 45 minutes or so, the sweet, smoky smell of the marinated steak strips grilling over the hot coals became too much of a distraction. "I gotta eat," said Will, leaning on his bat and staring toward the pile of meat. Frankie tore off his batting gloves. "After me, mano!" He started off, and said, "Mr. G, we need a break." Mr. G was already eating. Soon the bleachers were filled with hungry ball players and their band of fans chomping down on burritos hot from the grill and refried beans hot from the pan. In a few minutes, though, Everyone found out that Daisy Ramirez had more on her plate than grilled steak. She approached Tom's dad and sat down sideways on the bleacher board facing him. Jerry, she said, I'll say it straight out. We're not comfortable with you coaching this team. Mr. Gallagher chewed slowly and swallowed. He wiped his mouth. Excuse me? Tom set down his paper plate. Fear gripped his insides. He knew what she meant. Everyone did. Mrs. Ramirez let out a sharp breath. Well, Jerry, no offense, but we all know what's happened in these big games over the last few years. Now, you're a great science teacher, don't get me wrong, but I don't think you have the knowledge or the capability to coach these ball players to a point where they'd even have half a chance of winning this game. All the burrito chomping stopped. Paper plates plopped. Everyone looked at Mr. Gallagher. Tom was amazed that his father didn't back away from the dagger-eyed glare of Mrs. Ramirez that she was throwing his way. Instead, he leaned closer. Well, Daisy, I understand why you might say that, but I intend to coach these kids to the best of my abilities. Yes, my baseball skills are limited, but I've downloaded a lot of excellent drills from professional coaches across the country, and I think I've put together a pretty good program. After he spoke, the onlookers lowered their eyes. A few grumbled. Mr. Gallagher looked around. Well, tell me. His voice rose. Anyone, if you think I'm not able to run this team, just let me know why. Now Maggie spoke up. Oh, Jerry, we all like you and think you're a great guy, but you need to understand. Last week we figured this town had been sold down and over the river and the days were numbered. Then crazy old Doc surprised us all with this last-minute curveball he threw our way. We just want our team to have a fighting chance. Fighting chance, my asthma, Gray Dog said. We want them to win. He raised his wild weed eyebrows. And Jerry, you're our friend, but you've been down for the development. Everyone knows that. We just don't want to be double-crossed here. We're afraid if you make the kids lose the game, that will be because you wanted it to happen. Daisy Ramirez cut back in. What Maggie and Gray Dog are really trying to say is that these days of doom look like, well, in the prophecy. And as the town historian, I need to make sure we pay heed to the warning. Prophecy? Mr. Gallagher flicked the back of her hand. That's a bunch of garbage. Come on, you can't be serious. She kept talking. We all know that as of now, your intentions are to help. But over the years, the prophecy of Blackjack Buck have been shown to be, well, historically accurate. And since the death and doom prophecy mentions a double cross at the last minute, we just can't take the chance. Oh, that's absurd. Look, I'm in favor of saving this town. To put it mildly, our economy stinks. We're nearly bankrupt, and we need more than 1 or 2 new shops. We need something big. A golf course is big. Construction is big. Bringing in more tax revenue, that's big. But this is all beside the point. Right now, my focus is on winning this game. And why shouldn't it be? Chances are, if this deal falls through, there'll just be another deal like this right behind it. Suddenly, everyone was talking at once. It turned out that whether or not they thought Tom's dad was the double-crosser mentioned in the death and doom prophecy, almost no one thought he would or could give the Wildcats a snowball's chance in El Centro, as Gray Dog put it. Not even Tom, he had to admit. If we want to win, said Jimbo Jakes as he passed around a couple cups of apple cider, I say we get the El Cap High School coach up here, or maybe Coach Gwynn from State. That comment caused another storm of jawing and finger jabbing. If we got time for that, I can make a few phone calls. But they won't work for free. Who has the money to hire them? Finally, Mr. Gallagher stood up. Look, if any of you have any kind of have the baseball knowledge you're talking about, or if you want to go round up someone who does, feel free. But until you do that, I'm in charge here. And as far as my commitment to this team, I intend to make sure they're as well coached and prepared and that we plan to win. He walked down the bleacher boards and onto the ground, and as he strode, he shouted, Wildcats, meet me on the field in 2 minutes. No one had much to say after that, except Hollis B. He dashed behind the bleachers, bent over, and spoke into his phone. The fix is in, says Daisy and them. Says Gallagher's gang ain't got the stuff. Ain't got up to the snuff. Gonna get bulldozed over like fresh cream puffs. Cruz's eyes opened wide and he elbowed Tom. Who's that guy? Tom shushed him with a finger over his lips, and he watched the others through the bleacher boards. Hollis B kept dancing. But Gallagher says he's got the chops, and he says he'll pull out all the stops. His team will be ready to take the crown, and I say to my boys, lay your money down. On Dillontown, I gotta go. With a whip and a snap, he shuts the phone and high-stepped it out of there over the boundary berm. Whoa, Cruz said, and as he looked around and grinned. That's what I call talking. That's talking like he was born talking. Who is he? That's Hollis B. He lives in a tree, said Ramon. Yeah, but he's out of it most of the time, added Rachel. Cruz was still smiling. Well, I like his style and his prediction. Really, you guys, I don't see why we can't beat any team we face. The others were too polite to respond, but they shared knowing looks and began moving toward Mr. Gallagher waiting on the field below. Cruz, however, casually resumed munching on his burrito. Tom gathered the trash around him, crunched up the paper plate, and prepared to leave as well. But before he could rise, Cruz leaned over and whispered, You know where Dante Delgado lives, right? Tom nodded. Cruz pointed with his burrito off toward Rattlesnake Ridge. Think you could take me there? In the dark?